Hi, today we're going to work on integer word problems. What we want to do is we want to be given a word statement, such as the one given here that's highlighted in yellow. The sum of three consecutive integers is 147. Find the integers. There are a series of steps that we want to go through. Steps 1 and 2 define the variable. We want to define the variable here. So step 1, let n equal the first integer. Step number 2, let n plus something equal the second integer. Well, up in the problem it said the sum of three consecutive. What does consecutive mean? Well, consecutive means that we want one number after the other. So for instance, like 5, 6, 7, those are consecutive numbers. 8, 9, 10, those are consecutive numbers. So if n is my first integer, to get to the next integer, I would have to do n plus 1. Because if I was thinking about 8, 9, and 10, if I was at 8, what do I do to 8 to get to 9? And I'd have to add 1. Now it did say 3, so I'm going to have to let n plus 2 equal the third integer. The third integer, because if I was looking at 8, 9, and 10, if 8's the first one and 10 is the third one, what do I add to 8 to get to 10? I got to add the 2. So consecutive would be n plus 1, n plus 2, and so on. Okay, once I've defined my variables, then I want to go on to step 3. Step 3 says sum up all the integers and set it equal to, well, what was the sum from up above? The sum is 147. So I want to write sum up all the integers. That would mean I want to do the n plus the n plus 1 plus the n plus 2, because those are the algebraic expressions for each integer. Now at this point, step 3 is really setting up the equation. Step 4 says solve for n. So I'm going to use my algebra skills. Notice I've got an n, an n, and an n, so I have 3n. I have this plus 1, plus 2, so I have plus 3 equals 147. I want to minus my 3. So I have 3n equals 144. And divide both sides by 3. So n is equal to, so 144 divided by 3 would be, first of all, 4, and then 8, 48. Okay, so that would be step 4, solve for n. Step 5 would be to solve for all integers. Well, if I'm looking at 48, then if I add 1 to that, I have 49. And I add 2 to the 48, I have 50. Now step 6, check your solution. Does your answer make sense? Well, let's take that 48, let's add it to 49, let's add it to 50. It's supposed to all add up to 147. And what you need to ask yourself before you walk away from the problem, does it really? Well, let's see. 8 and 9 is 17, carry 1. 4 and 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. So it really does work out. Okay, let's try another example. And in this example, we want to find the sum of three consecutive integers is 48. Okay, notice they say sum, so we are going to be, oops, I gotta get rid of that. Oh well, whoops. So the sum, where's my pen? Okay, the sum of three consecutive integers is 48. Find the integers. Okay, they're talking about 3, so I need to look at my first integer. I need to set something up for my second integer. And I need to set something up for my third integer. Well, I'm going to start with the first integer. I don't know it, so I'm going to assign it an n. It did say consecutive, so I need to do an n plus 1. Third one would be that first one plus 2. Write an expression for the other two variables. Okay, I already did that right here. write and solve an equation to find the three other integers? Well, I would do n plus the n plus 1 plus the n plus 2 has to equal 48. Put all my n's together, so I have 3n plus 3 is equal to 48. Need to minus my 3. I get 3n is equal to 45. Divide both sides by 3. N is equal to 15. Now let's see, does that make, for the sum of three consecutive integers is 48. Find the integers. Well, am I looking at 15, 16, and 17? Well, let's double check. If I take 15, 16, and 17 and then add them all up, 5 and 6 is 11 plus 7 more is 18, carry 1. I do get 48, so my integers are 15, 16, and 17. Okay, let's take a look at another example. And in this example, we have to pay attention to what we're reading because there's an extra word in here. It still says sum, it does say three consecutive, but now it has this word even in it. And the sum is 108. Even, so consecutive even would be like 10, 12, 14, 2, 4, 6. Consecutive even, so they skip a number. So we're going to let n equal the first integer, and I got to figure out, what is going to be my second integer? Well, if I'm thinking about like 10, 12, 14 as being consecutive even, if I'm at 10, what do I do to get to 12? I have to add 2. And then I want n plus, what would I want? If I'm at 10, what do I have to add to it to get to 14? 14 is the third consecutive one. I would have to add 4. So that's going to be my third integer. So I'm looking at the variable expression n plus 2, n plus 4. Whenever the word problem says consecutive even, or if it was to have said consecutive odd, both of them are the same setup. It would be n plus 2, n plus 4. Okay, so I know it says sum, so that means I want to add up the n plus the n plus 2 plus the n plus 4 equals 108 because the sum was 108. Simplifying all these n's, I have 3n plus 6 is equal to 108. I need to subtract 6. So 3n is equal to 102. And divide both sides by 3. So n is equal to 34. So I'm looking at 34. Add 2 to it, 36. Add 4 to 34, and I have 38. Aren't those consecutive even? But before I circle that, make sure I have it right. They have to really add up to 108. So 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 8 more is 18. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it does add up to 108. So my integers are 34, 36, and 38 for consecutive even. Okay, I think I have one more example here for you. This one is find the sum of three consecutive odd integers. Okay, well, a little bit different. What do we want to know? Well, it's still the sum. It's still 3. Now, they're not always going to be 3. Just all my examples happen to be 3 in them. It could be 2. It could be 4. But this one, consecutive, and then they throw in the word odd. Remember, in the last example, I told you if it said consecutive even or consecutive odd, it's the exact same setup. So I'm looking at my first integer, a second integer, and a third one. And what I'm going to do is assign this n plus 2, and n plus 4. Consecutive even and consecutive odd are all set up the same way. It did say sum, so I'm going to add all of those algebraic expressions that represent my integers, add it to a negative 135. Combine all my n's. 3n plus 6 equals a negative 135. Subtract that 6. I'm looking at 3n equals a negative 141. Divide both sides by 3. N is equal to a negative, let's see, I'll go in there, negative 47. So then what are my three numbers? Well, if I have negative 47 for my first one, For my second one, I add 2, so that would give me negative 45. And my next one, I'd have to add 4 to that, so I'm at negative 43. Okay, well, if I have negative 47, negative 45, and negative 43, do they all really add up to my negative 135? Okay, well, 7 and 5 is 12, plus 3 is 15, carry 1. So I've got 5, 9, plus 4 is 135, added all negatives, so I have negative 135. So my consecutive odd integers would be negative 47, negative 45, and negative 43.